Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, as well as
Seth V.
coming at you from the Knife Center, and we like custom fixed blades, and this is why we think you should too. All right, Seth and I have got some examples of some both handmade and custom knives here on the table, and we've each got our reasons for liking them, and I think we've each got reasons that are kind of, at least I think, a little bit poignant. Agree or disagree, let us know in the comments. For me, one of the big reasons I like a custom fixed blade is the feel and getting to feel the work of the hands that created it. And I think you get this way more with a custom fixed blade than a custom folding knife. In my mind, like the better a custom folder gets, almost the more indistinguishable it can be from really high-end production folding knives. Mm-hmm. Whereas a handmade and custom fixed blade is often cheaper than similar materials on a folder, and I love the I hesitate to use the word imperfection, but the lack of a better word, the imperfections make a custom fixed blade beautiful, with some exceptions. We'll get to some of that too here, but yeah, folders are a different thing, and I've always liked that. Seth, what about your bit of poignancy today?
Well, yeah, I was thinking about custom fixed blades recently because it's not where my love of knives started. It's something that I've, I guess, discovered an appreciation for much more recently. In fact, this year I've bought more fixed blades than you have, which is... It's
really funny because like I meant to say this, here at the beginning, but I have been a fixed blade person for a long time. Production stuff before getting to the custom stuff. But yeah, you're deep into acquiring stuff right now. Yeah. I've got a ton of stuff in my collection, so it's established. I'm not thinking about it in the same way you are right now in your spree, so to speak.
Yeah, I never would have thought it could happen, but I got hooked. And yeah, it seems to me that I don't know what the best knife in the world is. I'm not even sure exactly what it would look like, but I am 100% certain that it's a custom fixed blade. Fixed blades make better knives. We can just be honest about that.
Fewer moving parts, less likely to, I mean, now they're going to talk about examples of really strong folders out there, but
sure. Well, unless you want the knife, unless you're valuing the quality of the knife in terms of how it can fold and fit in your pocket, perfectly valid thing to value.
But in terms of actual knife performing as a knife.
Folding and cutting, fixed blades 10 out of 10 times. So that seems obvious to me.
To me, it's like they can be made more comfortable. Mm-hmm. They're not restrained by the limitations of needing to fold.
Right.
There's more openness to the design possibilities.
You don't have to fit that blade shape, whatever it might be, into whatever handle shape you're working with. You can go way wild if you want to.
I love it. In fact, I'm probably going to steal this viewpoint because I think it's pretty fantastic and pretty spot on.
Yeah, and there's things that custom makers can do that production makers simply can't, whether it's really dialing in the heat treat in a small batch in a way that you just can't do in a commercial heat treating oven, or grinding each blade by hand with some kind of, complex or super finessed geometry.
I'm thinking like Walter Brend here, specifically, yeah.
Yeah, there are truly masters of the craft that bring a next level to the knife's performance that, try as they might, production makers simply can't replicate.
Yeah.
So whatever that best knife in the world is out there, it's definitely a custom fixed blade.
And it's going to be cheaper than an equivalent folder.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, let's talk about some of our examples here. A lot of that appeal for me initially was also tied into what you said there, is like the attention to detail is something that, very few production companies can equal. Chris Reeve, Shirogorov, that sort of thing. But for me, my journey from production fixed blades into handmade and then custom fixed blades started with LT Wright. Not with this knife right here, but this is a Gen 3 we have in stock right now. Pretty big, monstrous handmade fixed blade here. But it was a GNS that they sent to me, and I reviewed for a blog I was writing for at the time. And materials-wise, let's talk about expense a little bit. Cheaper than a custom folder, yes. Equivalent materials in a production environment, fixed or folder, you're going to be getting quote unquote less for your money with something like this in terms of raw materials.
Sure.
But what you're paying for is that attention to detail. And for the LT Wright folks especially, it's handle comfort has always been a huge thing. Finished by hand, there's no hot spots on the stuff that they do. The seams are perfect. Like you can't even fit a fingernail in any of those different layers going on right there. And that GNS really kind of opened my eyes up to, maybe it didn't like completely open my eyes up like right off the bat, you know, in a vacuum, but it really was my entryway into finding more and more of that. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I pursued when I started, you know, collecting more custom fixed blades. It wasn't so much about the steel or even the blade shape sometimes, but it was about the handles, not just the comfort, but also the actual materials you can use. Perfect example of that, Fiddleback Forge, run by Andy Roy. Of course, this is a KE Bushy we've got in stock right now. Not only does he do cool materials like this piece of wood, that was a live oak wood right there. I mean, just look how wild that looks. It almost looks like coconut husk.
Yeah, or like flowing hair.
Let's see. Yep, no,
I don't have any anymore.
Checks out.
I lost the flow.
But also on top of that, just the most comfortable knife that I have ever held in, you know, my hands, everyone's mileage of course is different, is a Fiddleback Forge knife. It was in a rate. I got it in a trade, not even thinking I was going to keep it because I was, you know, as you trade things, you know, things move around, things come in that you might think are just going to make another good bit of trade fodder. But as soon as I held it, it was revelatory. And that is something that, you know, Andy Roy is a master of, is making a handle feel like a second skin, basically. Mm-hmm. I mean, such a great feel.
Yeah. It's so cool when a handle accommodates any grips and they feel perfectly in place in all of them. Mm-hmm. Such a hard balance to pull off because you can really lock in a hand in one position and make that feel great, but as you move it around, it can be tough. The more you lock into one grip to keep it locked into others. And this is just...
It does... And it's across so many of his models.
I have so much confidence on this. It's really, really cool.
And it's across so many of his models and different handle shapes too. They all seem to just plain darn work and feel phenomenal doing it. Mm-hmm. And that's something when you're one person sitting behind a grinder, shaping a thing, you can get more. Yes, you could recreate this with, you know, CNC or injection molding, but getting to that shape is far more, you know, mechanized, far more, you know, there's less soul or less artistry to it. I know that's, you know, an ethereal thing, but someone sitting there and actually making the knife take shape in front of them is irreplaceable. Mm-hmm. But the materials like that, and you're just going to see materials on custom knives, fixed and folding, let's be honest, but especially on fixed blades in my mind, that you're never going to see on the production standpoint, such as this bad boy right here. This is from Alan Searles. Actually, I forget the name of this knife right now. Apologies, Alan, but look at that piece of antler for the handle right there. Looks awesome, stacked leather bolster, G10 guard, and it feels phenomenal. Like, it actually works. Like, you can't program a computer to make this with a irregular piece of material like this. Like, it's not a repeatable thing.
No, every antler's going to be unique, so you really need somebody there hand tuning, hand fitting, hand selecting each one.
And Alan actually learned from Andy Roy, and you can feel like that handle, or that attention to detail and the feel in the hand that really continues on a knife like that as well.
The flare is so fun on this, because it could be, like, I could see this handle shape being chosen and just rendered in G10. Mm-hmm. For its qualities in terms of like retaining your grip, you know, if you were going to swing it. But here it is, just a natural shape that existed in nature on a handle doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
It's fun to think about. It's fun to use something like this.
And it's also, the other thing in my mind here is all the steels on the knives we just looked at here are carbon steels, simpler things. And
01, 1095.
yeah, that sort of thing. 8670, I think, on one of these. I really should have written these specs down beforehand. These are steels that these folks commonly use in any case.
Well, it kind of illustrates that specs are not always so important.
That's something I learned through custom fixed blades. I also learned, and it's something I've said on this channel before, steel doesn't matter. If it's done right, if it's heat treated well, and the geometry is good, who cares? Is it going to work? Yes. Steel is far secondary to what has been done with it. And it's kind of like, it's freeing in a way to not get caught up in the rat race or worrying about, is this XYZ on the material front? Because here I am using this 01 fixed blade that makes things feel great.
Yeah.
You know, so cool. Check out this handle too. This is from TM Hunt. This is a cool example of where technology and hands-on artistry intersect in the handles here. He CNCs some with a desktop router system, which are getting more and more accessible these days.
Cool. To
create this bullseye handle blank, the rectangular piece of material, and then he does with it what he would do with a natural piece of wood, and put it on like this bird and trout right here.
Cool. Such
a cool bullseye shape. He's got a few knives doing this. It's becoming a bit of a signature thing for him. Just such a cool thing, you know? And this one, you might see some stuff like that on some production made stuff, but it's that intersection of the technology and the hands-on thing here that I think is really cool with this example.
So he's making...
So he's starting with, this is G10 and a poured resin in this case. So he's starting with 2 blocks of material, cutting out the pieces individually, with the proper tolerances for the fit, and then fitting them together, gluing them up, and then using them as a single piece.
I gotcha. We could probably skip that double explanation. I think I was just a little slow.
Okay.
No, that's going in.
Well, it is now, apparently. It's just such a cool thing. It's such a cool thing. And these are kind of some of the ones I wanted to show here are just scratching the tip of the iceberg. But in my mind, these are like some of my people, like people I've been fortunate enough to become friendly or even friends with during my time in the industry. So it's a good excuse to kind of show off my friends here. But I mean, Todd's stuff is great. He's got such a distinctive style, kind of all of his own, which is and isn't hard to pull. Like you see plenty of examples of people who do have their own thing going and are, a knife is instantly recognizable as their own, but it is hard to pull off and becoming harder, I would say.
Yeah, that's another fun thing about custom knives is when they really come from a one-person shop or a small shop just doing one person's designs, they are literally an expression of their work. It's not abstracted in any way. It's not like, oh, I designed this knife and then, sent it over here to get OEM'd and back here to get assembled, or, worked with this company in collaboration. Those are all cool and interesting, but what you end up with is a product that is an amalgamation of all those things and something often designed under lots of market pressure too. We want to fill this niche, we want to sell to these people.
Hit a certain price point, XYZ, yeah.
All that stuff can make a good product, but when it's someone working in a shop, just feeling things out, what you get is an expression of their character, of what they think is important in knives. And when they really know a lot about knives, you should listen to them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, I agree. I've just got 2 more things here to show you, and then we'll kind of let you kind of take over this. But the other thing, again, along the same vein of handle materials is stuff that's rare, scarce materials. It's going to be harder for whatever manufacturer to source enough of a material to make 500 pieces of a thing. And then if it's successful, hopefully, secure enough to make 500 more for the next run or whatever the case may be. You can have these one-off bits of history embedded in your one-off knife from a knife maker, from stuff that's just not made anymore, and is in some ways a finite resource. And these Kyle Daly knives, we've got the pocket bushcrafter and the full-size bushcrafter from him here, are great examples of it. First, you hear people talk about the material that's on here, Westinghouse micarta. It's, you know, old, really high quality. Of course, it's not made anymore. The UV stability of this is better than, you know, your modern day micartas. So it changes color less over time than some of the more modern stuff. And it often just, I say it's intangible, but you can feel it. They just feel better than modern micarta. Check out this piece here. It's kind of end grain cut here off on the side. You've got this variegation in color going on, which is really sweet. To say nothing of the awesome file work that Kyle does.
Yeah.
In the tang of the, like in the handle side of the knife, we're used to seeing file work on the spine in front of the handles. I'm sure other people have done it, but I don't know other people doing it regularly, putting your file work here and then filling the voids with the epoxy there. It's such a cool thing. And again, he's great at handle feel as well. I mean, that's a phenomenal feeling handle. Magna cut steel on this too. So again, blending the old material and the new, fresh, hot material.
Yeah.
In one thing. And the vintage paper, emerald paper micarta on this also. You know, a rare thing. Getting rarer every day because, you know, people like Kyle are putting them on knives. Much to our mutual betterment though. Check out the file work on the back of that one too. I mean, just cool stuff. And like I said, it's just scratching the surface of what's possible with custom fixed blades with my examples here.
Yeah, anything goes. If you can find a material and shape it and put it on a knife, there's a maker who might be willing to try it.
Yeah. But speaking of like really, you know, some next level stuff, talk to me about this knife right here.
Yeah, I wanted to pull this one. This is a Craig Kammerer dagger. I wanted to pull this one as an example of kind of the heights of artistry in craftsmanship that you can get from custom knives. Particularly because this blade steel is hand forged by Kammerer himself. I almost want to call this a sole authorship knife because everything on here was made by one man. I mean, some of the handle materials, not so much.
Maybe he didn't make the pins. You know?
Yeah. And there's sort of some carbon fiber on there too. I'm sure he wasn't making that.
But no, I mean, like making that steel and having that precise of a pattern, like making Damascus steel from scratch by hand is speaking of artistry, is beyond. I mean, you know, getting it right, making sure, and not even knowing until the end whether you have gotten it right or not when you actually dip it to bring out the pattern.
Right, yeah. It doesn't take on this high contrast look until the very end of the process. It kind of looks, you might be able to see a little bit of the pattern, but it kind of looks just like regular flat steel, especially after it's ground. And this only happens after you do the final dip in acid or whatever it is you're using to etch. Ferric chloride
or whatever, yeah. I think the other thing that's kind of telling, since we're talking about, you know, Damascus steel like this, is on higher end production folding knives, fixed blades, unless they're using something like Damasteel, which is a, you know, like a powder metal product, or like a VG10 core Damascus or some of those like lower end Damascuses. If they're not using the Damasteel stuff, most higher end things like that are sourcing their steel from people doing it like this, making things, you know,
dedicated
as by hand. You know, you're not picking things up by hand out of the fire. You know, there's tongs involved and all that. But you know, like Chad Nichols, Devin Thomas, Vegas Forge, like that, all those sorts of folks who are bending and folding things, and it's not really a machine making the decisions. You're using machines, you know, power hammers and all these other things to do it, but they're not making the decisions.
Yeah, they're just the dumb tools working in service of the plan. And a pattern like this does take an elaborate plan to execute. I mean, you've got to count the folds, you've got to get the pattern right. I have no idea how to even begin calculating how to do something like this, but it's ended up with this cool leaf-like, you know, they almost look like leaves branching off.
Yeah, it looks like ferns almost to me, yeah. That's the impression I get on it.
Never quite seen a pattern like it, and here it is on this one-of-a-kind knife, just showing off what it can be, really.
Yeah. Just stunning.
Yeah, beautiful.
Stunning piece.
But there's more to custom fixed blades than just the artistry. This little
You were
guy,
talking about performance earlier.
Yeah, this little guy was a knife so nice, I bought it twice. This is a custom Merlin from Jesse Jarosz. It is kind of what really sold me on EDCing a fixed blade. It's small enough to really work in that role for me.
Yes, yes.
The sheath was polite enough. It didn't really bother me once I got over the fact of like wearing a knife on the outside. But the grind here is just, there's so much finesse to it. I know it looks very simple, but it's thin where it needs to be and a little thicker towards the tip where it needs to be. It's a full hollow grind, so the slicing performance is amazing, but there's enough stock thickness that it still feels really, really robust in tasks where I've pushed it hard. And then, you know, it's not even just that. It's that the tang has been tapered for balance so that it sits in the hand very comfortably and you feel very safe using it, even though there's no guard, there's no jimping. It gives you a sense of...
Almost like confidence using it.
Yeah, a sense of confidence, and then the...
Sorry to jump in there.
No, that was exactly the right word. A sense of confidence and the performance to back that up with the knife that just results in a beautiful experience of using it. 52-100 steel on this, 62 HRC, little details like that, like it comes with a card that has the hardness of the blade, all these specs that have been tuned just for this knife.
Yeah, like most production knives, and we're talking about hardness in particular. One, they're not hardness testing every knife that comes out of the oven. Two, there's usually production knives are heat treated to a range. You might have like 57 to 59 Rockwell. Like they'll target 58, but it might be plus or minus 1 because even just air currents in a large oven can affect it a little bit or just enough.
Just like a real oven, you got hot spots.
Yeah, yeah. But you're gonna find much more likely someone who might actually hardness test every blank that they have that comes out there, and they can pass that info on. Yeah, to me, like the thing here is that there's a nimbleness to this knife that is just excellent. Like I've seen knives like this that have really chunky feeling handles, and it's just not this balance, nimbleness. It feels fantastic, despite its humble outline.
Yeah,
the devil is in the details and how it's made that make it truly excellent.
Super simple silhouette, but it's the in-hand experience that really sells it, that really convinces you that it's worth it. And that's the experience of custom knives, I'd say. Yeah,
I think this next one, kind of jumping ahead a little bit, it's another Jarosz here that there's that feel in the hand that you will continue to appreciate, and you will appreciate more over time. And it's that attention to detail that will reveal itself to you, even if you don't immediately see it.
Yeah.
Not just the feel, but sometimes visual elements too.
Check out the taper on that tang.
Check out the taper on that tang, which a tapered tang balances things out. You can see it, unlike a skeletonized tang, which does the same thing, but you can't see it. But we saw something here that I don't know that I've seen anyone do before. He tapered the liners opposite way too.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that at first, but they're thicker down here, and then they get super thin up towards like the ricasso area.
So it's that those little details that visually revealed itself. It's something you grew to appreciate after holding it a little while, but that happens too with the ergonomics, the actual cutting performance and cutting ability of a knife. Oftentimes, you will gain appreciation for it as time goes on.
Yeah, this one's AEBL. I think that's a hollow grind. Just such a thin edge, but because of that AEBL, it's going to be plenty tough.
Oh yeah. And the other thing, you mentioned this earlier too, is you've kind of been following along with a lot of his custom fixed blades for a little while now, and you had an observation about that.
Yeah, I got in a trade one of his very early knives, and it's comparably pretty crude, actually. I mean, the thing about it is it's a great knife. All the fundamentals are there. It cuts like hell. It feels great in the hand, but the craftsmanship is not up to this level, and it's because with every batch, he's pushing himself. He's getting better. He's learning new things. You can see the progression of the maker in his work.
Yeah.
And that's a really fun thing to follow along and kind of appreciate.
Yeah, you not like to your earlier point, you not only get the idea or the representation of their current expression, but you get to watch it change over time as well. That's always a very cool thing. Yeah, very cool.
Next, I pulled a Randall. This is a Model 1 with the sharpened swedge, classic combat knife.
Classic Randall.
Yeah. Some would argue this is not a custom knife, but it's definitely on the periphery if it isn't explicitly one.
I mean, it's not like they're churning them out in a factory there. It's kind of like, the LT Wright knives. Love LT Wright knives, love LT Wright and the whole crew there. Not a custom knife. It's a handmade knife, a handcrafted knife at the very least. But yeah, same idea in my mind with Randall.
These are icons in the knife world. They've been around long enough that they kind of helped define what a cool knife even looks like. There's something about how they look, how they feel.
They define their own style, one that today is, dare we say, imitated by others. You could say something, oh, that's very Randall-esque.
Yeah, at the time they were kind of iconoclasts because they were even kind of the first overbuilt knives. People were saying, it's too thick, it's too heavy, it's too big, but they sold like hotcakes and they were used, by soldiers. They were put to the test and they survived. They went to space,
I always forget about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you buy yourself one of those and a Fisher Space Pen, you're out of this world.
Yep.
I'm here all week. Literally, I'm here all week. Yeah, I mean, just handmade icons for sure. With a level of attention to detail that surpasses some custom makers, even though.
Yeah.
Even though it's, we may not qualify them as being custom knives, you get that same attention that customs can be exemplified by.
Yeah, and over the years they've stuck true to the hand making aspect of their brand. I don't think they would be as legendary or as collectible if they launched a brand of production knives you could get every day of the week. The fact that there's still a waiting list for them, the fact that
multi-year waiting list for them.
Yeah, a long waiting list.
Yeah.
There's still people
But we have some in stock on the website.
It's true.
So
this one included, as well as some cool shorter ones. I think we actually have one of the space knives.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, at the moment.
Maybe if I don't buy it.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, I think, things, more readily available, more affordable, even though, prices on these compared to, say, a quote-unquote comparable folder, comparable custom folder, I mean, well, shoot, let's think. This TM Hunt is like, I think, a little over $200. Are you getting a custom folding knife from anywhere in the $200-some price point? I don't think so. I don't know of any. But even that might be, even some of these aren't cheap.
No.
So you actually pulled a few here that I think if you're looking to get into this feeling, this vibe of what custom or what handmade knives are all about, there's some good places to start. I think LT Wright is definitely one. Their Bushcrafter HCs start a little over $100 for a 4-inch blade, like a full-size
It's a good deal.
handmade knife,
Yeah.
which is pretty legit. But you pulled a couple cool things here that could also be worth looking at.
Yeah, I wanted to get some knives with some character, something that is clearly very handmade that someone could buy and sort of bond with. This is a Hiroaki Ota fixed blade knife. Comes in at $130. Kind of like the Yaros. I think this would be a great first fixed blade EDC to try it out, see if it works for you, if you can handle carrying a sheath and living with it dangling against your thigh there. Nice thin bird and trout kind of style, caping knife, paring knife. It's gonna be that everyday companion, Any little cutting tasks, This is gonna be great at. And I like that it has a larger handle too, so it doesn't feel undersized, even though it's very, very thin.
Yeah. I mean, it's got some of that same nimbleness, but to that point, even though this is smaller, than this full custom Yara's here. Yara's, I never remember. Sorry, Jesse. This feels more handle heavy than this does. And it's that balance point. It's still very good. It's only by comparison to this that you really see what we're talking about in terms of that attention to the balance and actual in-hand usability of a knife. This is extremely usable. That's even more usable.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, I'd agree. You're paying a little more than twice as much for that, but it is a level up. But there's so much here that shows the hand work. Like the hand rub blade, you know, that's an etched logo. That's not a laser engraved. It's, you know, somebody put a little stamp on there and did their etching.
Actually, before you get to that, what do you have on your belt right now?
Oh yeah, this is a good example too. I have a little Moki Banif fixed blade. Just happened to be carrying it today. It's not a custom knife in the sense of some of these on the table, but it has that handmade warmth.
It's of a kind, I would say. Yeah.
These are a little more expensive than the Ota, but they're definitely worth it. We've got a couple blade shapes at the moment in stock. Not this one at the moment, but you know, they come in and out of stock, so hopefully we'll get some more soon.
Yeah, you kind of turned me on to this this brand, actually. I never spent much time looking at them. And it's got the fit and finish. It's got the attention to detail that I enjoy with it doesn't feel like a mass-produced knife.
No.
Which mass-produced knives can be great, but they do feel different.
Yep. BG10 steel. Yeah, great. Pretty handle heavy with this shrimpy little blade on it, but I think it's charming. And yeah, I would definitely recommend the Banif as well.
Yeah. They've got some really cool, I think it's the Chronos, some of their lockback folders that you can get like some stag or jig bone and stuff on look really cool and they're just phenomenally made.
Yeah, awesome knives. And the last one on the table is from Kellum. Another one of those hidden gem brands.
Very, very underrated, very underrepresented, underappreciated perhaps.
Yeah, coming from Finland, this is their Wolverine, a Puukko, absolutely, through and through.
As a Puukko, I have to touch it.
Yeah. The handle is so beautiful. Like the single piece of wood.
And it's not even been polished and it still has that beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know they make these blades by hand. I'm sure they're shaping these handles by hand. Not a custom knife, but has the same handcrafted quality that goes into the best custom fixed blades. Yeah,
it's made in a style, like in order to make this knife the way that it is, you have to do these steps by hand because this is the historical way these knives have been made with the pinned tang in the back, with the shape of the handle, the way it's one piece. You could machine make a knife in this shape, in this silhouette. You know, you could machine grind these bevels, but to put it together exactly like this requires handwork, and there's just something about that comes through in the final product.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
There's an interesting, they do a differential heat treatment on this blade too.
Yeah.
So it's softer at the spine and hard at the edge. Yeah, some cool stuff going on with this one.
Which again is something you don't often see in production knives, even though, you know, this is a handmade production knife. I will qualify it probably thusly. But, you know, big run machine made knives, big run production knives, it's a detail you don't see very much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to the point you made, like it has what attracted me to custom fixed blades in the first place, and that is that feeling of knowing another human did this, another human touched this, kind of put a bit of themselves into it.
Yeah.
And all the performance reasons aside, that kind of, you know, emotional thing resonates with me.
Definitely.
Like that, you know, unquantifiable, this was crafted, created with care, with love, with passion, which is intangible.
Yeah.
And yet, oh so important.
By hands, for hands.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect place to end the video, unless you got anything else.
I'm all tapped out of wisdom for the day.
All right. Well, custom fixed blades, by their very nature, are you know, don't live forever on the site. Once they are sold, the next ones that come in aren't necessarily going to be the same. So if you see something you like here, we will link to these products if we can, and to all of these brands at the very least in the description below, so you can go check out what is currently available whenever you happen to be watching this video. But before you go over there, comment section. Are you a custom fixed blade person? Are you a handmade fixed blade person? What was your first?
Are you custom curious?
Are you custom curious? What brands do you have your eye on? Are you thinking of anything differently after seeing this video? Honestly, this is one, I know I always kind of solicit feedback. This is one especially where I would love your feedback on the topic at hand. Let us know. But anyway, if you want to head over to the links at the description, that will take you to KnifeCenter.com. Don't forget about our Knife Rewards program, where you can earn some free money towards a future knife when you pick up one of these custom knives today. I'm David C. Anderson.
I'm Seth V.
And that's Thomas behind the camera. Very quiet today, but that's okay. And we're signing off. See you next time.